Thanks for watching Hybrid IT, where we are, where we're going. Sponsored by CGI Federal. With the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network, I'm Mimi Geerges. As agencies digitally transform and adapt to increasing demands for citizen-centric services, the world of the CIO and their infrastructure teams have changed dramatically. The past decade has seen significant change for federal IT operational organizations, from focus on data center consolidation and virtualization to cloud first, and now cloud smart. Most agencies now operate in a hybrid IT multi-cloud environment. This 30-minute TV program will bring together thought leaders from government and industry to discuss best practices for IT operations in a cloud smart environment and what's next in hybrid IT. Joining me is Dave Nelson, Chief Information Officer at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Also here today is Robert Costello, Chief Information Officer at the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, known as CISA. And Paresh Patel, he is the Vice President of Chief Information Officer Advisory Services at CGI Federal. Gentlemen, welcome to all of you. Dave, I want to start with you. You've been CIO at the Nuclear Regulatory Commission since 2016. In those 5 years, can you talk about how your approach to IT has changed and evolved?
Sure. Particularly in the area of hybrid clouds and clouds, we've made a lot of progress. Most of what we do, we continually try to identify those opportunities that allow us to improve performance or even reduce costs when it comes to the way our applications run, as well as how our network actually can be optimized. So hybrid cloud gives us the opportunity to actually put our endpoints for things such as security tools and network tools out near the endpoints, and really improving the actual performance of the service, while the cloud really allows us to reduce costs and again, sometimes refactor and improve the performance of the applications.
And Dave, what is cloud first, and how has your focus evolved to be, quote, cloud smart at NRC? You know, and I'm just wondering how you're applying that cloud smart way of thinking at the NRC.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, cloud first was the first attempt, really, as I was starting here at the NRC, a little bit before that in the federal government, of moving most of our applications up into the cloud where it made sense, but it was more of an opportunistic, looking for those types of easy to understand, easy to move applications up into the cloud. The cloud smart approach really allows each individual agency to really put their own strategy together and really look at what makes the most sense, what types of applications would make the most sense to put in the cloud, what should you leave in your data centers, what should you move to co-location centers, which clouds you should use. Really allows you to optimize, again, the performance and the cost of the types of applications you're putting in the cloud.
So where are you now in your adoption of cloud and hybrid IT, and what does the future hold for NRC in terms of the cloud and data center operations in general?
Right. So we're quite a ways along on our journey at this point. We have many of our high performance applications already in the cloud. We have certainly our collaboration tools and the types of things that our agency staff really need to access, which has helped us during this time of a lot of telework at our agency. So we're moving along quite well. We are really looking out maybe 3 or 4 years and trying to minimize the footprint of our data centers that we actually host here at our headquarters, moving most of those applications either into one of our clouds or into our co-location facility.
So Bob, turning to you, after 9 years at Customs and Border Protection, you've recently taken the helm as CIO at CISA. And these are both part of DHS, but they're very different in terms of their missions and their stakeholders. How is an agency like CISA looking at the cloud and hybrid IT compared to CBP?
Sure, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here today. I think in some ways we're very different, in some ways we're very similar. CBP and CISA both interact with the public a great deal, and we have a lot of the same stakeholders in different communities. So I think we look at it very similar. We need resilient systems, secure systems, and reliable systems for our operators each and every day. Now, it's a little bit different here, not having a law enforcement mission or an enforcement mission per se in the trade community, but we still interact with all of those same partners. So when we look at things here, it says, as I look at the systems in my new role, I'm about a month in now. My focus is pretty much relentlessly on delivering solutions that enable the operators here at CISA to interact with our partners better, to streamline their application development and deployment. Things like ATOs are being looked at to streamline them so we can deploy systems a lot faster. I think the work I did at CBP kind of really laid the groundwork for what I'm doing in the CIO's office here. We're certainly forming a new agency here. We're only a couple of years old, and I think that we're having a really good focus on who we need to recruit, employee development, investing in our people, and that goes into how we're going to deliver technology solutions and what makes sense for CISA. So I think by and large, it's a lot of the same things that we were doing at CBP, making sure that solutions, can scale appropriately, have a good life cycle, that they're meant for the cloud, or they're meant for a colo, or that maybe some still make sense to keep on an on-prem data center until we sunset those solutions. So for right now, about 30 days in, it's a lot of investigation, but I think by and large, it'll be very similar to the work I did elsewhere in government on, optimizing solutions for the cloud or refactoring, or in some cases still staying on-prem because it's what makes sense, not only for the application, but to ensure that we can deliver the right level of service to the operators.
And Bob, as the IT environment has become more complex and agencies increase the use of cloud alongside their more traditional IT solutions in a data center, how are agencies gaining visibility into everything operating within their IT environment?
Well, I think that's a challenging question because you have to make sure from the development stage, whether you're deploying an application or infrastructure or other things, that you're all kind of in line together. The security folks, the operational folks, the developers, people managing the infrastructure solutions, and I think visibility is very key. A lot of the documents or bulletins that you see come out from CISA really speak to that you have to have good visibility of your solutions. You have to have good logging solutions. You have to have people trained to actually interpret the solutions that they're looking at to gain visibility. It's fine that you say that you're logging everything, but if you don't have people trained to interpret those logs, it can be very difficult to differentiate the signal from the noise in your visibility solutions. So I think one of the goals that I always have is, you start with open communication. You make sure that your development plans incorporate things like visibility, security, and everything from the start. And if you have legacy solutions, you sometimes have to work backwards. You sometimes have to look at how it was engineered. What are we currently getting from the solution that meets current either security or just operational needs? Can I even tell if the system's up or down or performing appropriately? And then you can kind of work backwards from there. I think there are a lot of good programs that even CISA offers through like the CDM program and others that do allow agencies to kind of take advantage of things that have already been vetted or are working elsewhere and deploy them themselves. So that's kind of where I am right now. I do think that visibility is sometimes a double-edged sword, depending on what you're trying to do. And I think you need to have those discussions really up front to make sure that everyone's kind of working towards the same goal. Because that's one challenge is it can mean different things to different people. Security operators have a different, they look through a different lens for what visibility means to them. Where for my customers, it may just be, I need to know, green, yellow, red on system performance. That may be the most important to them. So that's my approach to visibility.
Well, Paresh, I want to turn to you because you're an advisor to CIOs. What challenges are you seeing agencies face as they approach this cloud smart way of working? And then also, how is that driving the ways that government agencies go about procuring cloud and even their more traditional IT services?
Thanks, Mimi. It's great to be on the program. COVID was a great accelerator for the move to the cloud. Agencies need to be more agile, more responsive, and things that the traditional data center couldn't support very well. It's just scaling and getting to market fast. So that was a good preview for us. And I saw three major challenges through all of that. The first was around workforce. The traditional data center staff may not be knowledgeable on cloud native services. So agencies need to invest in getting these people trained and certified, not just from a government standpoint, but look to their contractors to do the same as well. The second area was around security. There were more and more connections beyond the data centers. There was multiple clouds, software as a service, mobile devices. As a result, we saw some breaches. And so implementing things such as a zero trust security model is crucial. And then the third area is around the alignment of IT leaders and their business counterparts. Meeting the needs at the speed of the mission was critical. So as I advise CIOs and technology leaders, I frame the conversation with those three areas in mind and look for things that we can do now, things like establishing agile procurement models.
So you mentioned training, security, things like that, but I also wonder about the challenges that agencies have in adapting their organizations to use the cloud at scale. So what advice do you have for agency IT leaders given the drive to further leverage multiple clouds within the federal ecosystem?
So one positive trend I've seen is the change in mindset from the early days of lift and shift to meet certain checklists. Now the focus has been on scaling and applying the associated governance. So that's a move in the right direction. Yet there's still a struggle when it comes to partnerships, particularly between IT and the lines of business. Communication needs to be improved. That may sound simple, but there's a lot that goes into it to make that successful. I'll share a recent example. I was working with a government IT leader who was struggling to keep up with all the demands from the business. He was getting requests for software as a service, automation, multi-cloud, and it was hard to get his arms around all of that. So we worked together to develop a plan. Essentially, it was a series of partnerships. The first one was a partnership with the line of business, get a regular pulse of what was happening, what types of challenges they were facing, and what types of needs they anticipated. The second one was a partnership with industry, folks such as myself, to get the latest thinking and offerings that are available in the market. And then the third one was partnerships with the vendor ecosystem, understanding the latest products, and not just as they exist today, but what is the roadmap and upcoming capabilities so agencies can be prepared for that. So we put it all together and we created a business solutions office. This was where a variety of people can come together, folks from the business, security office, privacy office, and they can come and bounce ideas, discuss different strategies. And then as those strategies become initiatives, IT is engaged every step of the way.
And Dave, back to you in your experience at NRC and what you're seeing from your colleagues around government. How do you think CIOs need to continue to evolve to leverage the benefits of hybrid IT?
I really like what I just heard about the partnership. That's something that we have. We've actually matured quite a bit at NRC. Being a small agency, it's very, very easy to have those kinds of relationships and really understand how we support the mission, and being very inclusive with our different program offices in making the decisions and the priorities of the agency. We recently went through an effort to develop both the current state, a future state, and a roadmap for the future so that we could prioritize together what those investments would be. But from a larger level, when we speak with all the CIOs across the government, I think one of the keys with cloud is interoperability and how we as different agencies can work together in designing architecture that actually works together with other agencies to deliver more seamless sorts of citizen services.
All right, well, gentlemen, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us and sharing your perspective. Up next, more of my conversation on how agencies can leverage the full breadth of hybrid IT. We'll be right back.
Hybrid IT, where we are, where we're going, is sponsored by CGI Federal. Learn more at cgi.com/hybridit.
Welcome back to Hybrid IT, where we are, where we're going, sponsored by CGI Federal. I'm Mimi Geerges with the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network. The hybrid IT environment introduced new complexities in terms of visibility and compliance. With the need to support the diverse requirements of agency missions, IT leaders need new approaches to leverage the full breadth of hybrid and traditional technologies available to enable the business of government. Joining me is Brian Merrick. He is the Director of Cloud Programs at the Department of State. And Bernard DeLisi is Senior Vice President of Consulting Delivery at CGI Federal. Gentlemen, welcome to you both. Brian, I want to start with you. You're looking at cloud from an enterprise lens at the Department of State. Can you tell us about the State Department's journey to the cloud and how adopting a hybrid IT model is supporting the mission?
Certainly. As you can imagine, an organization with a mission as diverse as ours really begs for use of the cloud in terms of enabling the mission through new technologies. And we fully embrace that. And we've gone through the cloud journey as many agencies have, starting with cloud first and really now moving into more cloud smart. And in our journey in doing that, we've also really taken advantage of a lot of hybrid cloud opportunities. And by hybrid, I mean really a combination of using cloud and existing on-prem investments, as well as looking at multi-cloud environments to meet our missions. And so, we found over time that especially in a geographically dispersed environment where we often have many external partners accessing our data and assisting us in our programs and missions, that it's been vital to have that capability. So especially in austere environments and locations where we may not have great internet penetration, we've been able to leverage this hybrid technique and approach to be able to deliver modern functionality while still take advantage of the data that we have and on-prem and the investments that we currently have in place.
And Bernard, you've helped a variety of organizations and large companies transition to hybrid IT and use both data center and cloud services. How do you help clients determine what the best strategy is for applying a hybrid IT approach?
Well, hi, Mimi, and thanks for having me on the show. The era of lift and shift to the cloud has been replaced by a more transformational approach. And the idea of cloud smart, like Brian said, it really focuses on having the right workloads in the right place, whether it's cloud, whether it's software as a service, and even knowing when to keep things on site in your data center. Now, most organizations are multiple years into their cloud journey and recognize that to achieve the results that they want from adopting cloud as part of their hybrid IT model, they need solid governance. So what do I mean by governance? Well, it's the process by which decisions are made around IT assets. How those decisions are made, who makes those decisions, who is held accountable, and how the results of those decisions are monitored and measured. Now, we've seen that the number one reasons projects fail, especially transformational projects, is a lack of proper governance. And at all levels, IT leaders need to engage their stakeholders early and often to make sure everyone is singing from the same sheet of music. But overall, organizations are looking for a model that is more agile, that allows them to get capabilities out to their end users quickly and without introducing risk. Now, to gain that agility, my primary recommendation is to empower decision-making at lower levels. Look to empower smaller groups to make decisions within specific guidelines that bring value to the business. That is what we see as a differentiator for success.
Well, Bernard, let's drill down a little bit on that because you mentioned governance, and it sounds like that could really be a challenge. What are your concrete recommendations then for agencies to improve their approach to governance in this hybrid IT space?
Well, agencies need to think of governance at the enterprise level and at the project level. So let me give you two examples, and I'll start with the project level. Recently, we were approached by a client who had done a lift and shift to the cloud. They did it quickly, and they did it so they could meet very specific compliance regulations. Now, they accomplished their move, but in the end, it ended up costing them a whole lot more, and in some cases, created a really bad customer experience. So we met with them, and they're asking, where did we go wrong? How could we come in and fix this? So we came in, we spoke to the stakeholders, we reviewed and documented their business requirements, and map those needs to the right solution. So we ended up with three different strategies. One, some data was going to remain in the cloud as it was originally intended. And then some data, secondly, that was not accessed often was going to get rationalized and moved to lower cost archival type storage. And lastly, some data came back on site to be closer to the applications which still resided in the data center. Now, the Achilles heel of that organization was not having all the right stakeholders engaged in making decisions of what to move to what type of cloud capabilities. And in the end, we were able to bring everyone together to make a better, well-informed plan. Now, at the enterprise level, agencies need the mechanisms to procure and leverage the full breadth of hybrid IT services. Increasingly, we're seeing interest in setting up cloud brokerage offices and cloud centers of excellence. Now, those terms are similar, but there's a distinction in the missions and services offered by each. For procurement, cloud brokerage offices provide the mechanisms to get the right cloud service provider in place at the right price and at the right time. Cloud brokerage offices set up the contracts and provide the means to access those services for the entirety of the organization.
Brian, I want to turn to you. Previous guests have talked from the NRC and CISA have talked about how their agencies are approaching the hybrid IT landscape and the role of cloud computing. But at state, with a global mission, how have you looked to optimize your cloud approach in support of the diverse mission, and really with such a distributed landscape and so many locations?
Right. So as you can imagine, it's really complex. And so we took a slightly different approach from, say, a traditional cloud brokerage type of offering, or relying purely on a franchise model. So what we did was we created a shared platform and a shared responsibility model with our partners. And so as there are multiple IT organizations throughout the department, they all need to leverage the same types of platforms and capabilities. We took pieces and parts of those different approaches and combined them into our shared responsibility model. And so what we did was basically set up enterprise license agreements with all the major cloud providers that most of our customers were leveraging or cared to leverage. And then we actually set up a platform service for each of those major cloud platforms, which allowed us to create a common controls environment, which basically leveraged a cloud-based identity ICAM solution. We also offer the O&M on that platform to our partners, so that when they put their workloads in that environment, they're able to basically leverage that so that their resources can focus more on the application or the data layer in terms of workload management. And we also, from that approach, get more consistent security, more consistent configuration capabilities, and it's also a lot faster for folks to get directly to work and to start meeting their mission objectives. And by doing that, everybody gets to focus on the pieces of the mission that they're obviously most suited to do. So the parts of the organization that are closer to the programmatic mission can focus more on the business requirements, and then we can abstract away a lot of that infrastructure burden from them. And so by using that approach, we've been able to save about $2.5 to $3 million annually in O&M labor per platform that each bureau would have put in place. So as you articulate that across the enterprise, that's a massive cost avoidance by using this type of approach. At the same time, we haven't constrained the need to create those diverse application requirements for multiple different sets of users and mission needs. But by having that on that shared platform, we've reduced threat vectors, we've reduced compliance and policy labor that goes along with all these activities. And we've also been able to allow folks to maximize their development labor and really focus on their core key missions that they do well. So from that, it's been a very successful operation. And to date, we've got over 95, almost 100 applications in our various environments. And so it's been highly successful so far, and it's continuing to grow as we continue to bring on new environments and we upgrade them to higher levels of security classification for data storage as well. So as this goes on, we'll end up seeing an even greater growth in the use of hybrid in leveraging definitely analytics capabilities, and while taking advantage of a lot of the SaaS and APaaS and PaaS platform capabilities across the enterprise. So I think we're definitely poised to continue going on in a really good direction with this.
That's definitely good to hear, Brian, but I want to ask you about security because obviously that's going to be a concern for all agencies, but a global operation like the State Department is going to have additional considerations. So how are you looking at the role of hybrid IT then in improving the agency's security posture?
Certainly, from a security standpoint, I mean, as I mentioned, that shared model does assist greatly in terms of reducing the compliance workload that's required. So folks are able to inherit a lot of the same security controls in their environments through our common controls offerings. And by doing that, they're able to focus more on their specific workload controls. In addition, it makes it easier to set up the monitoring and the auditing that's required, the audit log management. As we have fewer different platforms for the security folks to have to oversee, it really streamlines that process exponentially. Also, since we're all using the same cloud-based identity provider, it makes it a lot easier to also manage a lot of the business rule enforcement through that mechanism. So we're moving towards is to actually integrate our identity piece with a CASB solution with the native controls on the platforms. And by doing that, we're going to be able to achieve a much more granular security posture, a whole cloud security management posture than we would be able to in a traditional on-prem environment. And that's obviously still a work in progress as we work through that in the different various platforms and work through new offerings and whatnot. But that's the direction we're going in, and we've already made pretty significant inroads going down that path. And as that goes on, I think we're going to find ourselves in even a better place in terms of being able to really provide that assurance that our controls are designed and operating effectively to secure our data.
And Bernard, back to you. As agencies look to reap the benefits that Brian talked about of hybrid IT, what concrete steps should they be taking now to prepare?
Yeah, so foster a culture of innovation and continuous improvement. Now, those things are going to be expected. Yes, they inherently mean something special, or something outside of the current operations. But innovation and continuous improvement really need to become part of an organization's DNA. That doesn't happen by accident. You really need to foster and nurture it from the top. Also, listen to your people. Those close to those day-to-day IT operations have great ideas, as does the business and the end users who use IT services. You want to give ideas investment, time, and most importantly, support to often incubate their ideas and potentially become a solution to the business. An example, on a large program I ran, our team crowdsourced innovation and continuous improvement. We gave our entire 250, 300 member team a forum to submit ideas, vote on those ideas, and choose winner or winners. And then they were given the time to incubate those ideas, create proofs of concepts, and drive solutions and value to the business. Within 6 months, we had taken 20 innovative ideas to the business and cataloged almost 100 continuous improvement items that reduced our operational risk and reduced the amount of incidents and the time it took to resolve those incidents. Now, during the pandemic, this culture provided a great value as the business itself was faced with challenges of managing remote workforces. And our team was nimble, agile, and flexible, and able to bring those ideas forward and execute on them immediately. Now, you've got to make this a program, and it's not an ad hoc or even a yearly event. You got to wrap good governance around it, but understand that not every idea that goes through that incubation cycle will be successful or will be adopted, and that's okay. And lastly, get visibility and showcase progress being made. That's going to drive interest and adoption and show that innovation, continuous improvement comes in different shapes and sizes and comes from everywhere in the organization.
All right, well, Brian, Bernard, thank you both so much for joining us. And thank you for watching Hybrid IT, where we are, where we're going, presented by CGI Federal. For more information on the subject matter we discussed today, go to govmatters.tv/hybridit. For the Government Matters Thought Leadership Network, I'm Mimi Geerges.